Hi, everybody. Welcome to week 5, part 1 of our Parenting Today lecture series. And this week we're going to be focusing primarily on parenting adolescents. I'm Dr. McCabe-Maucher here with you today from University of Maryland, University College. I hope you're having a fantastic week. So we'll begin today's discussion just by reviewing Galinsky's stages of parenthood. So for the sake of the quiz, which I'm going to try to give you lots of pointers as we go through, quiz number 3, that is really focused very heavily on the stage of adolescence. So when you're preparing for the quiz, you definitely want to keep that in mind, that most of the quiz questions are going to be from the life stage of adolescence and this entire week's lecture series, as well as the readings. So you definitely want to make sure that when you have your open notes quiz, that you not only have the PowerPoints, but also all of the other reading material at your disposal. So when we talk about Galinsky's stages of parenthood, again, we remember that adolescence is marked by that stage of being interdependent. And according to Galinsky, in adolescence, parents share the power with children. So just giving a review, things that we've gone over for the past several weeks. When we talk about infants birth through 2 years, the major tasks for the child at this particular life stage is physiological regulation, interactional synchrony, as well as attachment. And the parental role is basically being sensitive, responsive, and available to the infant. And we talk about that toddler stage. Again, we're still doing a review, working our way up to adolescence. The major tasks for the child in toddlerhood is exploration of the world, developing a sense of mastery, individuation, as well as autonomy, and also developing a sense of right and wrong. During that toddler stage, the parental role is primarily focused on being a secure base for the child, setting clear and realistic expectations, providing consistent discipline, as well as direct, persistent supervision, and helping that toddler learn to regulate their emotions. Still doing that review, recapping the preschool years, which primarily take place between the ages of 4 to 6 years. The major task for a preschool age child includes self-control, cooperation, sexual identification, as well as peer relations, socialization. The parental role for preschoolers includes setting clear roles and conveying values to the preschooler, as well as organizing and supporting peer relations, and really having a flexible management style. Talk about school-age children, just to review or recap school-age children and some of the tasks associated with children in this stage, which is between the ages of approximately 6 to 12 years of age. The major tasks for a school-age child are to be self-confident, to be part of a peer group, to develop close friendships, and have a positive adaptation to school. The parental role among school-age children is to provide open communication, acceptance, as well as indirect monitoring. So what about adolescence? Adolescence takes place between the ages of approximately 12 years of age until approximately the ages of 19. However, in some cultures can have more of an extended period of adolescence, which we'll discuss as time goes on. For the sake of the quiz, you definitely want to remember that adolescence is marked by the beginning of puberty. So in adolescence, major tasks for the child include identity formation, heterosexual peer relations, or homosexual peer relations, dating, autonomy, occupational plans, romantic relationships, and the parental role in adolescence is psychological autonomy granting, indirect monitoring, as well as involvement and support. So there's lots of different physical as well as neuropsychological developmental aspects that are important as we study adolescence. So when does adolescence begin? So as I said earlier, very important, you're going to see this question again on the quiz, so you want to put a big circle or star around this. Adolescence begins with the advent of puberty. So this is a period of rapid physical growth for the majority of teenagers. Development of secondary sex characteristics begins in adolescence, and children reach reproductive maturity during this stage. So it's highly variable between and within sexes. So for girls, adolescence or puberty begins between age 8 up until age 17. And for boys, puberty or adolescence begin between the ages of 9 and 20. So in terms of puberty in girls, the earliest sign is breast development, or the development of what's called breast buds. Also, the growth of pubic hair, the growth of armpit hair can signify the beginning of puberty, and menarche, which is known as the onset of menstruation, which really starts about 2.5 years after puberty begins in most females. We want to remember that ovulation occurs irregularly for the first year or so and then regulates. So in terms of puberty in boys, an early sign is enlargement of the testicles, productions of the sperm, enlargement of the penis, development of pubic hair, development of hair in the armpits. Typically, a male's voice will begin to deepen, muscles develop, and the development of facial hair also commences. So what triggers puberty? Well, it's a multifactorial process here, the first of which is genetics. There's also physical influences in terms of nutrition, exercise, and body fat composition. There's social influences at play here, especially in terms of economic stress, as well as psychological influences, which include the parenting style as well as life stressors. So there are several parenting factors in the onset of puberty, and research tells us that supportive parenting by both parents in the early years equals delayed sexual development. So that's pretty interesting recent research that we're uncovering here. Harsh parenting styles and stress is associated with greater precocious puberty in girls. That's definitely something you want to circle or remember for our quiz. So research does tell us that parental conflict or divorce can equal greater instances of precocious puberty, and girls living in a home without a biological or long-term father figure are at greater risk for experiencing precocious puberty. So what is precocious puberty? It's defined as premature sexual development. So the development of secondary sexual characteristics before the age of 8 years in girls or before the age of 9 years in boys. It's also defined as menarche, or a girl having her first period prior to the age of 9. So in terms of precocious puberty, the ratio of girls to boys is 10 to 1. So precocious puberty occurs in 1 out of every 5,000 females and 1 in every 10,000 males. And it's important to note that precocious puberty can result in shorter stature because a child has less time to grow before puberty, in terms of height. So the age of puberty onset in girls is something that's changing. So in the year 1900, the average age of menarche, and remember that's when a girl first gets her period, was between the ages of 16 to 17 years of age. In the year 2003, the average age of menarche was 12.4 years of age. So why is this happening? Well, again, a myriad of factors here. The first one being that a higher BMI, or body mass index, is associated with earlier maturity. Another big reason, you definitely want to put a circle or a star around this, is that exposure to pollutants or environmental toxins that disrupt hormonal regulation can cause earlier sexual development. So that's a dioxin, which is essentially a poison that's found in meat, dairy, and seafood, accumulates in fatty tissue. So arsenic is another pollutant that's found naturally in some water sources. And then we have those PVCs, which are found in Teflon, Scotchgard, food packaging materials, and those BPAs, which are found in plastics and resin that can seep into foods and liquids, especially when they're microwaved, or, that's one of the reasons why you don't want to have water bottles or bottles of unknown origin. Lots of companies are coming out with BPA-free bottles. However, there are still BPA plastics out on the market. You don't ever want to leave those in a car, especially in the summertime, the hot months where it can heat up and that plastic can really seep into liquid. Fire retardants found in sleepwear also contain environmental pollutants, as well as lead and certain pesticides, including Roundup. Another example, which we're going to dive into a little bit in part two. So I'm going to end our conversation for right now, and I look forward to seeing you on part two of our journey here together in adolescence.